Okay, let's picture this. You're way up north, northern Norway, above the Arctic Circle. Winter's closing in. It's November 2nd, 2025. And researchers from the Norwegian Orca survey and Orca channel, they see something. Well, something almost unbelievable. The water just erupts, splashing, turns a bit red, and then this tiny, tiny black and white head breaks the surface, struggling.
Yeah, it's raw footage. What they captured was the very first documented birth of an orca in the wild. And not just the birth, but video of its first hour. Critical moments.
And this isn't just, an emotional video, though it certainly is that. It's a huge scientific window. We're using this really rare glimpse for our deep dive today. Trying to get into the core of orca culture, looking at that intense, immediate support they give right after birth,
Right.
and then zooming out, looking at the maybe surprising long-term social structure that holds their society together.
Exactly. And these sources, well, they're so valuable because honestly, most of what we knew about orca birth before this came from, like, captive situations.
Yeah.
Very restricted. So our mission today is connecting those dots.
Yeah.
Between that immediate drama, the protective circle, the helping the calf breathe, and what a 20-year photo study tells us about who really keeps the pod cohesive long term. It's maybe not who you'd think.
Okay, let's start right there at the birth. Christina Bellate from Orca Channel, she gave the first-hand account. She said they were watching this group, mostly adult females and juveniles, when suddenly, action. Blood, splashing, and then the calf appears. And they quickly ID'd the mother as NKW591. She's known to researchers up there.
Yeah, a known female. And you can tell it's a newborn right away just by looking. Orca babies, neonates, they have these really obvious fetal folds, kind of like wrinkles, and the dorsal fin. It's often soft, floppy, bent over from being curled up inside.
Right, I've seen pictures of that.
Yeah, totally normal. Thankfully, it usually stiffens up within about a day.
But those first few minutes sounded incredibly tense. The team watching, they actually thought for a moment that the calf might be stillborn or had died right after birth because it was struggling so much to swim for like 15 minutes, barely moving.
And that struggle, that's likely the trigger for what happened next.
Yeah.
This high energy response from the pod. Again, mostly females and juveniles just snapped into action. They formed this tight protective circle right around the little one.
Wow.
And then forcefully started pushing it, lifting it up towards the surface, holding it there basically, to make sure it got those first critical breaths of air.
That's incredible coordination, but you mentioned interference. There were boats around.
Yeah, that was a really crucial element. The researchers knew how vulnerable the situation was. There were 6 whale-watching boats there. Some even had divers in the water nearby.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So the Norwegian Orca survey team, they had to act fast. They coordinated with all the boats, asked them to leave the immediate area, just to give the whales space and quiet,
Yeah.
They did. Huge credit to the tour operators for cooperating so quickly. It was essential. Then the researchers, they backed off too, monitored from like 300 to 500 meters away, using drones, acoustic sensors, watching until it got dark.
So they could gather data without stressing the whales.
Exactly. Natural data, undisturbed, which is, well, it's a world away from what you learn in captivity. Just for context, the last calf born in SeaWorld's breeding program, it died just 3 months later. So observing this in the wild is invaluable.
That protective behavior, you described it as forceful pushing, lifting the calf on their backs, even their bellies. It sounds almost aggressive. Why so intense? Is it pure instinct or something more complex?
Well, that's where comparing helps. This specific kind of energetic support, it's not actually unique to these Norwegian orcas. We have records from 1990 with L82 Kasaka. She was a southern resident orca. During her birth, observers documented very similar actions, lifting the calf on their rostrums, their noses, slapping the water near the calf with their tails. Really energetic stuff.
Okay, so it's a recognized pattern. Intense physical support. What are the main ideas, the scientific hypotheses for why they do this sort of jump start?
There are a couple of main theories floating around. The first one is probably the most straightforward, the stimulation hypothesis. The idea is that all that pushing, the splashing, the lifting, it might act as a physical jolt, like a vibrational or even auditory stimulus to kickstart the calf's systems, make sure it's breathing, moving properly.
Kind of like how sometimes human newborns need a little help to get going.
Exactly like that. The physical stress of birth
Yeah.
might just require this energetic nudge from the pod.
Yeah.
But there's another hypothesis, maybe more intriguing from a social or cultural angle.
Okay.
The highly coordinated way they do it, everyone working together, suggests it might be more than just physical stimulation. It could be perhaps a kind of ritual, a ceremonial social event marking this huge moment, the arrival of a new member, reinforcing group bonds, celebrating new life, whether the calf is struggling or not. It could be partly symbolic.
A ritual. Wow, that adds another layer entirely.
It does. And that incredible support, that intensity we saw at the birth, it really hints at a deeply ingrained social structure. It's not just random helpfulness. To really get it, we need to zoom out again. Let's look at the long-term findings from that big 20-year photographic study you mentioned earlier on the northern resident killer whales.
Right, the harm species.
Yes, we know the basics, right?
Yeah.
Orca society is strongly matrilineal.
Meaning mothers and their offspring stick together for life.
For life. And it's matriarchal, the oldest females are in charge. They're the crucial guardians of knowledge, passing down survival skills, hunting spots, everything.
That's the classic picture. Powerful females holding the family together. But what did that 2-decade study actually reveal about how those bonds function day to day? Did it confirm that picture?
Well, yes and no. It confirmed the matrilineal core, absolutely. But it reveals something really counterintuitive about the females' wider connections. Their strongest bonds are overwhelmingly intramatrilineal, so very tight within their own specific mother-offspring unit.
Okay, that makes sense.
But here's the surprise. There's a striking lack of close contact with other close female relatives within the same pod. Specifically, the data showed that sisters, adult sisters, almost never associate closely after about age 29.
Wait, really? Even though female orcas can live well past 50?
Exactly. They live long lives, but adult sisters just don't seem to hang out much once they're independent and likely raising their own calves.
That feels odd. If matriarchs pass down knowledge, wouldn't adult sisters, the direct heirs, want to stay closely connected, reinforce that knowledge transfer?
It's a great question, and it really flips the script on the typical family reunion image. The core bond is mother-offspring, absolutely central. But once females mature and have their own young, their units become quite socially independent from other related female units. They don't seem to provide much of the glue holding different matrilines within the pod together.
So who does, if not the adult females?
Interestingly, the study found females do associate more often with non-kin, but from other pods entirely, which might help with community-level connections, but not within their own pod structure.
Okay, so that makes the male's role seem even more important then. The study called their social patterns almost exactly complementary to the females. What does that mean in practice for the adult males?
It means they're the social butterflies, basically. They maintain much more diverse social contacts across all age groups. They hit adulthood around age 21, and suddenly, boom, there's this explosion in their social interactions, especially with their extended family, cousins, nephews, brothers.
And still stick with their mothers too, right? That matrilineal bond holds.
Oh, absolutely, constantly associated with their mothers. But crucially, they actively bridge the gaps between those separate, independent female-led units.
I remember reading a specific point on that young calves, nieces, and nephews, they're seen interacting way more often with their uncles than with their aunts.
Exactly. That's a key piece of evidence. The uncles are spending time with the kids from their sister's line. The males are essentially acting as the pod's social connectors, the infrastructure, like you said.
So the big takeaway, the aha moment from 20 years of photos.
The core scientific conclusion is that the adult males are the primary source of social cohesion within the pod. They provide that critical intermatrilineal link. They bind the separate mother-offspring units together into a functioning whole.
Wow.
And this lines up with observations of pods splitting apart. It's much more likely to happen if a matriarch dies and there aren't any adult males left in the pod to hold the remaining units together.
That completely reframes the social dynamic. It's not just about the matriarchs.
It's a partnership, structurally speaking.
Yeah.
Matriarchs hold the knowledge, males hold the structure together.
And achieving that level of social complexity, that coordination we saw at the birth, it takes serious intelligence. We're talking a brain weight of, what, 6.5 kilograms?
Huge brains.
Right.
And that intelligence fuels their complex regional cultures. Think of their vocal dialects. Different pods sound different, like that unique Aussie accent they found in orcas near Bremer Bay in Australia.
Right. Culture expressed through sound.
And most dramatically, through their highly specialized hunting techniques. These aren't universal. Different groups develop their own methods. We see them herding fish, stunning them with tail slaps.
That crazy intentional beaching in Argentina to grab seals right off the sand.
Yeah, incredibly risky and precise. Or the wave washing technique in Antarctica.
Where they swim in formation to create a wave.
A coordinated wave, yeah, to wash seals off icefields. Just amazing teamwork. But maybe the ultimate example of specialized intelligent hunting Comes from this newer study, Moctezuma's pod down in the Gulf of California.
What are they hunting?
Juvenile great white sharks.
Whoa! Taking on great white.
Young ones, yes.
Yeah.
And they have this incredibly specific technique. They work together to flip the shark upside down.
Why?
Because flipping a shark onto its back induces this state called tonic immobility. It basically paralyzes the shark temporarily.
No way. They're using the shark's own biology against it to immobilize the ocean's top predator.
Precisely. Utterly helpless. And while the shark is in that state, the orcas perform, well, it's almost like surgery. They precisely extract and eat only the liver, which is super rich in nutrients.
Just the liver, and they leave the rest.
Leave the rest of the carcass. It's an incredibly efficient, high-reward strategy. Maximize nutrition, minimize effort and risk. And researchers think this specific targeting of young sharks might be linked to environmental changes.
How so?
Warming waters might be shifting where the shark nurseries are located, pushing these inexperienced juvenile sharks into areas where this particular highly skilled orcapod hunts. The young sharks are just more vulnerable.
What an incredible deep dive this has been. From that, that raw, intense moment of a birth in a Norwegian fjord to figuring out the long-term social glue provided by, surprisingly, the adult males.
Yeah.
And ending with this calculated, almost chilling intelligence needed to hunt great white sharks. It's just mind-blowing.
It really covers the spectrum of their complex lives, and it highlights this constant tension, this balance we need to stretch. On one side, you have the absolute need for long-term research, like we need to know if that calf born in Norway survives, or
Yeah.
that's critical data. But on the other hand, we have to face the conservation challenges. The sources we looked at mentioned the real ethical problems with unregulated ecotourism, overcrowding boats, harassing the whales. It's a documented issue in places exactly like scurvy, where that birth happened.
Right. Finding that balance between observation and protection. Which leaves us, and you, with a final thought to consider. Orca society seems to depend heavily on two key roles. The oldest matriarchs, who hold generations of survival knowledge, and the adult males, who act as that crucial social glue binding the family units. So what happens to the collective knowledge, the cultural memory, and the very social stability of a pod when things like climate change or pollution or even just direct human impacts start to cut short the lifespans or disrupt the presence of those absolutely critical individuals? What happens when the knowledge keepers or the social connectors disappear too soon? That's the real cliffhanger for the future of these apex predators.